Right, good morning everybody, and welcome to the Cabinet meeting for Friday the 21st. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting for Friday the 21st of July. I'm the Chairman and Leader of the Council, Tendring District Council. And I will start with the agenda. Apologies for absence, please. Agenda item number 2, minutes of the last meeting. So has anybody got any comments on the minutes of the last meeting? Okay, we're happy to approve them?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. I'll get them signed while we're doing. Agenda item number 3 is declarations of interest. Has anybody got any declarations of interest?
Yes, I have. For agenda item 9, in the interest of transparency, I was recently chair of the trustees of Citizens Advice, but I'm no longer a member of the board.
Seems I'm having a problem with the mic. Thank you for that, Gina, and it's noted. Okay. Thank you, Gina. Okay, agenda item number 4, announcements by the leader. I've only got one announcement, and that's around the King's Fund. While we were at the conference with the LGA, the King's Fund announced its recent paper, and TDC was mentioned as an exemplar. And I was in the ELGA meeting yesterday with the Chief Exec, and I'm not going to do this under because I know he wants to talk on it a bit, but we were featured highly around our work with working with partnerships. And at that point, I think it's best probably I hand over to the Chief.
Thank you very much indeed. I think it was really exciting to, obviously, the King's Fund report, which is talking around the exemplars of about health and local government working together and what can the outcomes be. And we were discussing yesterday things like the work, which is the challenges which we have in tendering, and also some of the work which we've done to address that. So whether that be looking at the work around primary schools, which is now in 30 primary schools around supporting mental health for young people in primary schools, whether we look at the support which we've done around the work in Jaywick Sands with education, the Education Board. But the key to it was that the work which is done in collaboration with Essex County Council colleagues, and I know there's Essex County councillors here, as well as obviously with the officers there, also with with Health and the Alliance, very strong work with the Alliance, which is an exemplar. One of the questions I always have about it is why do we bother? So what? What do we do? What makes a difference if we do that? If we do that, because of the challenges which tendering has had around some of the highest deprivation, some of the biggest health inequalities. Well, it has made a difference, and it's made a difference because our health index has, for the first time, had a positive increase, which has been recently published, of 4.8%. The England average of improvement is 0.8%, and many authorities, and I say this not from the point of view of in comparison to others, but just to show it's not just a wider geographical area of improvement, have declined, whereas ours has improved by 4.8%. That means that our residents, longer term, will see their health inequalities, the issues for their health will reduce. That will also see that the support for our residents now for the reactive health has improved. The sorts of things that has made a difference to is things like the diagnostic hospital, where 80,000 people a year go through that. Absolute credits to the work which obviously of Ed Garrett and the work of the Alliance, but we have been very much a part of that work. The other key figure which we had was we were the second highest in terms of the numbers of suicides in the country as a district. That is no longer the case. That has now reduced significantly. And we've focused the work, as I said, around some of the primary school work, some of the work around some of the key schools which were having issues, and some parts of it, so some particular areas within the population. And we have made a difference there. So the King's report was really just an endorsement about the importance of partnership work around the shared posts which we have. So, for example, a joint director of the Alliance, which is shared with ourselves, Colchester, with Essex County Council and with the ICB, which is about, therefore, an understanding. what our communities need and where we should focus our resources. And collectively focusing our resources means that for the first time we have seen a change on the health index and reducing the overall rate of suicides. So I really welcome the reports from the King's Fund, but not just from that as the kind of the references in it around the shared posts, etc., but as a sort of a point at which it also highlights the fact that we are making a wider difference to the challenges of health for our sector, our economy, and for tendering.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 5, announcements by cabinet members. I believe, Ivan, you've got a couple.
A couple, Leader, that may be of interest to members. The first one is, and I'm sure members around this table today would have heard about the consultation which has now taken place for the closure of railway ticket offices around the country. Over 1,000 are proposed, but we have proposals to close some of those actually within our district, and one particular one which will impact is Manningtree. We understand Clacton, and I'm not sure if I saw on the list even Frinton was one of those. I've certainly been contacted by members of the public from my area saying that they find it very useful to use the ticket office at Manningtree, especially older members of the public and those with disabilities, making sure they've got access to stations and onto trains, but also to make sure those people who don't use the electronic way of buying tickets, they have a human, actually a desk telling them what's the best way to travel, what's the best tickets to actually buy, the cheapest tickets as well. And I think with the experience that those ticket office staff have got and being able to give people the best advice, it's a real shame and concern that these ticket offices are going to be taken away. The other big concern is that this consultation is only going ahead for 3 weeks. And it's quite a short consultation, which I think a bit unfair on the public to get involved. We know people can respond to Transport Focus if they can, and that's all highlighted. They'll find it on various sites. But the consultation actually finishes on Wednesday, the 26th of July. Like I said, it's very short, but it will, I'm sure, have an impact on our residents. So any members around this table or any of their other members that they could feed that information in who want and wish to actually respond to that consultation, I would really urge them to do so on behalf of their residents, because there are very concerned residents. I know I was on the train going to Chelmsford the other morning, and a member of public stopped me and said, do you know, they talk about the average of 12% of people now use ticket offices, but in Greater Anglia it's actually 16%. And this chap was saying to me, his father mentioned to him, don't we matter anymore then, the 16%? And I think that's the point, you know, just to say that, well, that doesn't matter, even though those 16%, and 16% of what? They don't matter anymore on getting that support and advice when they need it. But that's the first announcement, Chairman.
Apologies. Can I just clarify on what Councillor Henderson just said? Is we don't have proposals to close them. It's the yeah. So I didn't want there to be any misrepresentation. This is a consultation which we're announcing is happening.
As we know, it's the train operators, but obviously being encouraged by the Department for Transport.
Bye.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ivan, for the announcement. I fully support that. The one thing that the Greater Anglia have been saying is that they will redeploy staff on platforms, but we know that they're not. And the most important thing is that quite often machines do not perform to what they should do. You know, as you say, they don't advise you on the cheapest possible deals. They're not there to answer the many queries, and I just wonder if we should widen the. You know, I'm sure other districts will feel just the same as what we do, and just wondered if we should do a joined up approach, including all the 12 other 11 authorities and Essex and Thurrock and Southend into it, because it will affect everyone here. Did you say you were planning to, the council was planning to kind of write a formal response to the consultation?
That's exactly what we were saying, Carlo. Sorry, Councillor Guglielmi. You know, we're not happy about them closing and putting someone on, as you quite rightly said, on the platform. Well, why not just leave them behind the ticket office? You know, that's where they're needed. That's where they're most sorted. And clearly, they'll say that now, but in the future, we'll find it. So yes, the council will be making a response to that. So.
Thank you. And may I suggest then, if that response could be circulated to as many groups as possible in the district, community groups, town and parishes, so that they can actually, because there'll be a lot of people that, although it's been publicised on TV, they will not be aware that this is going on. So if that's going to be forthcoming, and given the short span of time that the consultation is open for, if that could be done sooner rather than later and circulate to everyone, so people can actually piggyback on what the council does.
I do believe we already have plans to do something exactly like that. So because of the short notice of time, that was one of the things that we're planning to do. I'm going to go to Councillor Scott first, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I fully support what Councillor Guglielmi just said. I think a joint approach with other local authorities is a sensible approach. When ticket machines were closed down, not the offices, and they used machines in my area, about 7-8 years ago, it actually could cause a lot of problems. Elderly people didn't understand machines. There's ticket splitting, so it's cheaper to buy split tickets to go to places, and a ticket machine doesn't do that. And the Guardian also did a write-up on ticket machines, that if you go to a ticket office, the ticket operator who works there can find you the best deal to get a ticket, while a ticket machine just sets out the standard rate across the country. And there was a proportion where one ticket was £100 and something, and the ticket they got from the office was about £80 odd. So there was about £60 difference. So it's going to penalise low-income families. Speaking from my ticket machine that's in Alresford, it doesn't take cash. Sometimes the card machines don't work. And how you're supposed to get a ticket if the card machine goes down, the broadband goes down, the machine can't do card payments, don't take cash. You get on the train, and then the ticket guard says, "Oh, we'll give you a fine." So it's not a sensible approach. I also wonder whether the permit to travel ticket machines they used to have across the networks, especially Network South network, they removed the permit to travels, where you used to put like 10p in, get a ticket, get on the train, and you pay the remainder with a guard if the machine's not working and there's no ticket staff. So if they're going to go down that route, then they should really perhaps introduce a system where you pay something to get a permit to travel, where you get on the train and you don't get your fine. But I think it's a poor show, really, and it's going to affect people who can't use technology or machines. And the way they place the machines, especially in Alresford, where the sun comes up and you can't even see the ticket machine, it's terminal, because the sun is so blinding. People that won't bother. So there's a lot of issues, and I think Councillor Henderson's right to talk about this, and I agree with Councillor Guglielmi to have a joined up approach with other local authorities.
I totally agree with that human element, which can quite often save you money. It's better to buy this ticket rather than that ticket. Will be sorely missed if we do lose these. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's outrageous that 3-week consultation for something this important. Having used Manningtree Station on many occasions, I've often seen 2 people in the ticket office. There's 3 machines, as far as I'm aware, 2 of which face the sun. And Greater Anglia couldn't give a reason as to why they did that when they could have put it in the shade. And then because there was such a demand for tickets, they had 2 people come from Ipswich who were stood outside the ticket office issuing tickets. So there is a human need, and as you say, Councillor Scott, the man behind the counter, he's an expert and he can tell you exactly what is the best way to get from A to B and the cheapest way. And they're still making. I just think this is an excuse for them to save money, because train travel is down. It's not gone back up to pre-pandemic levels. Yet we try to encourage people to use a sustainable transport system. People are just going to use cars. At the moment, people drive from Ipswich to Manningtree because 1, it's cheaper, and 2, there's a big car park. People drive from Clacton to Manningtree because it's on the main line, and because there's a ticket office that's banned or resourced, should I say. So maybe one of the comments in our response as a council should be, why is it only a 3-week consultation? It should be 3 months at least, because I'm sure that whatever they've decided to do, and call me a cynic, and this is a personal view, is they will do what they wish to do anyway. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And just to make it clear that all the points mentioned today will be picked up in our response to this consultation. Ivan, I'm going to move you on to your second point.
Yeah, just to finish on that, because the issue that was mentioned just now about the numbers they need to increase. Well, is this the right way to do that, to get the footfall up on those trains? Because one of the groups that I'm set on as well as a safety advisory group, and that was on the back of the the horrific death of Sarah Everard, and that was about making sure that their places are safe for women and young girls, and we need to make sure that these stations are always, there's staff always on them, to make sure there's safety as well for people who are travelling on their own, especially late at night. So that is another big issue. Anyway, Leader, going on to a more positive note, because this is the last cabinet before the air show, which takes place on the 24th and 25th of August, I thought it'd be useful to give an update on this year's. And we're facing another really good bumper year of an air show. And not only is this another air show for the district, it's the 30th anniversary of our air show. So it's one to celebrate, and there is a really good show being put forward. And as people have probably heard, publicised, we've got the return of the Battle of Britain memorial flights, and I think this is one of the favourites for people out there, where you see the Lancaster coming over the district and across in the sky, and also the Supermarine Spitfire will be with that memorial flight, and also the Hawker Hurricane, and that will be on both days, Thursday and Friday. And of course, on top of that, one of the other favourites is the Red Arrows, which will be flying across. I'd say Blue Arrows sometimes. I don't know why I say blue. Red Arrows coming across the sky on both of those days. And of course, on the Thursday night, for those people who may not be able to make the daytime flights, there's the twilight flights and displays on the Thursday evening. And again, we've got a really good display there. We've got the Tigers Army Parachute display team, world-class team, going to be dropping from the sky with smoke trailing and flags trailing from them. But on top of that, we've got the old favourite Otto, the helicopter, with the pyrotechnics being shown and lighting up the sky during that time, and also the Firebirds, which will be with them, with those pyrotechnics showing there. So, and also the paratroop team will be paratrooping on both days as well, and so will those Firebirds be shown on those days. And just to top it all, we then got the RAF Tutor team, which is a display team with a number of aircraft coming across. And there is a special one amongst that, which I'm sure Councillor Chapman would want to mention. Within that display, there's the Navy Wings Swordfish flight, which I believe Councillor Chapman has a veteran who actually was part of the crew in one of those aircraft. So it's quite a moment to remember for him, and also probably his family and friends who will be watching on that day.
We're actually trying to persuade him. At the moment, he's quite keen. We're actually working with his daughter now. He's 98. His mobility isn't brilliant, but his mind is as sharp as ever. And when I told him they were coming in, he sort of got quite excited. And I just said, "Would you like to go?" He went, "Oh, it's given me a little time to think about it." So as I said, we're now working with his daughter, and we're trying to get him here on the Thursday afternoon for the flight. So with any luck, keep your fingers crossed.
And just to finish off, because there are times of the flights obviously being advertised, but those times do change. So if anyone's listening in, please keep a watch on www.clactonairshow.com, where you will get all your information on your flights and timings of those flights, and hopefully all the parking arrangements and travel arrangements to make your day as easy as possible and as special as possible. And we hope to see as many people come along to those 2 days and enjoy not just the display, but also encourage them to use some of our local businesses and food outlets, our restaurants on the day as part of that 2-day event. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. I must say, as a Clactonian, the air show is one of the events I look forward to most, but it is a sort of crown jewel of our district when it comes to events, and I think it goes further afield. I'm not quite sure where the next air show is. It's quite a distance away from us, so I'm proud that we still have an existing and running air show, and it seems to grow every year on year, so I'm very pleased. Moving on to Councillor Barry, I believe you've got something.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to the air show. As somebody who had airfix models of a Lancaster and a Hurricane as a child, which was a long time ago, I'm really looking forward to seeing the real thing. But carrying on the theme of displays, I'd just like to congratulate our garden staff, our council staff and the community volunteers for all their hard work in helping us to retain our 4 prestigious Green Flag Awards for open spaces at Clacton Seafront Gardens, the Wheelie Crematorium Gardens, Cliff Park in Dovercourt and Crescent Gardens in Frinton. I'd just like to say that having visited all 4 sites in the last 7 days and spoken to staff and volunteers, I've been massively impressed by the range and diversity of the areas, from large open spaces to the beautifully presented flower beds. And when we were in Clacton on Tuesday, we were looking round the flower beds, and a couple of visitors summoned us over and just congratulated the staff personally and said it's one of the highlights of their visit to Clacton. They come every year and they look forward to seeing the displays. So just well done to all our staff, and thank you to the community volunteers as well for their efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. Our parks and areas do look fantastic. Feeling a little bit proud of those, as I always have done going in the past. Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 6. Matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council. There are no matters this time, so I'm going to move us on to agenda item number 7. And this is the matters referred to the Cabinet by a committee, and this reference from the Community Leadership and Overview and Scrutiny Committee. You'd think after 8 years I'd be able to say that by now. Scrutiny of children missing from education, and I believe, Gina, you're going to move this.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to thank the committee for their comments and recommendations. It's a very important issue and very close to everybody's heart, I think. I have asked officers to raise these matters at the next meeting of the Tendron Education Strategic Board Attendance Subgroup. Do you want me to read the recommendation?
Let's get a seconder first.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Gina, if you want to go on. Did you want anything else to say?
No, the recommendation is as read. That's been seconded, yeah.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. I'm really pleased that the committee took on this piece of work, and I'm really pleased that that work is actually carrying on because the issue is still there and possibly growing, and so it's an important issue to highlight and do some work on. There is a distinction between, because I'm also on a working party on this and on Essex County Council and have been for a while. There is a distinction between children missing education and children not in school. On the register, there has been an increase in absences within schools over the past year or so, especially since COVID. But the children missing education one is something that the Children's Commissioner actually raised a long while ago about the thousands of children which are not registered everywhere. And I'm pleased to see that Essex County Council have now responded to a Department for Education call for evidence, and I have shared that document with officers here, which I hope will help towards the next session within that committee as it goes forward. But just to give you some examples of the evidence which is the concerns which are being made. It's about registration of those children who are missing in schools when they come off the school roll. There is at the moment, no statutory or mandatory requirement for anyone to register where those children are, what type of education they're getting, if they're getting any education at all. And it's called elected home education, really, the title of that. So the evidence, one of the parts of the evidence I see, just giving you an example, is that requiring a system of registration for children not in school. But there's also an issue about all the different agencies and partners not being able to share relevant information with each other. And on the last question, I think this actually sums it up. It says, please include any further comments you have regarding identification or support for children missing education. And the officer's response was, for every birth registered, a corresponding record should be created on the relevant local authority's health and education database, so that child may be tracked from a very early stage, and support with access and education may be offered to all children living within a local authority's jurisdiction. Relying on parents to register for health and education provision is not as effective as it once was, meaning that there may be increases in levels of unknown unknowns with each local authority jurisdiction. And that's the concern. These children literally are going missing, and they're going across from one authority to another and not being tracked. So the work that this committee is doing, and also I've got to say Essex County Council doing, is it's really good work, and we need to keep raising the profile of this at the highest level. Thank you, Leader.
Carlo.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just like to echo what Ivan has said. There's quite a lot of work done in Essex County Council on this. I'm the Vice Chairman of the People and Family Committee, who was very much the remit fits into that. In 2018, I led a task and finish group on county lines, and it was very apparent that quite a lot of the children that get dragged into the dragnets of county lines are those that are home educated or those who've been excluded. We were told then that there was new regulation coming in from government to put some structure about home education. I don't think you could classify every child that's been home educated as having a bad education, but there is no regulations. On top of that, parents are able to take their children on holidays whenever they want, whether those parents who've got children that in normal education streams, they're stuck with getting the highest price between July and September. So there is an awful lot of anomalies there. But the one thing that it's really quite, as I said, the link with county lines is very, very strong, and there is no regulations. If a family moves from county to county, there's no requirement on that family to register wherever they go. So that child falls off, as you said, off the system, you can never keep a track on what's going on. So I do welcome the work, and this is a very good example of us influencing in something that we're not really responsible for. And I will quote the chief executive when I invited him to another Task and Finish group, which I led on mental health. One of the members of the panel suggested that education and is nothing to do with district. Well, it very much is, because those children that belong to a district, they also belong to Essex, and likewise on the way around. So we did put him right straight away. But it is a very important area that every district really should take a responsibility to understand. I mean, the last figure we had was 2,500 children, but it could be half as much as that. The truth is, we just don't know how many children are not in the normal education stream. So I really welcome the work that the committee is doing, and that make sure that this carries on, and to engage with Essex, because there's quite a lot of good work done. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo. Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, Councillor Guglielmi makes a very good point about elected home education. Some of that, and I saw some of the evidence which was within the committee, some parents are doing a really good job, and there are various reasons why some children are taken out of school and home educated, but our concern is not for them, because like I said, some parents are doing a really good job of that, and although the report does say they could do with more support on when they do opt for that, I think most of our concern is those most vulnerable children, which are we don't believe are being educated properly, and there are safeguarding issues as well. So yeah, I think that was a good point to make, Councillor Guglielmi, that we're not pointing the finger at all parents. Some parents are doing a really good job with their children in home education.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Mr. Davison, I believe you wanted to say something.
Thank you. I just wanted to first of all endorse what Councillor Henderson was saying about the importance of this, and also absolutely what Councillor Guglielmi said about it is the responsibility of all of us, because as I was highlighting earlier about the King's Fund, one of the key things around that is about the partnerships, and whether we're the deliverer of services, with a facilitator or the influencer, we have our role, because it is our community leadership of the community as a whole around what we're doing. So sometimes we will have people out of housing who will recognise there are issues. Sometimes it will be, our work around community safety, which will highlight issues. So we need to see to work it through together and see it. I mean, so many times you've heard me liken it to the Al Capone issue, and sometimes with the Al Capone, it was with Al Capone, how you address an issue is sometimes not the obvious. So with Al Capone, he didn't go to prison for racketeering, murder. He went to prison for tax evasion, and it's about how do we deal with issues in a different way and find solutions in a different way. So I think we do all have a role. It's not what are you doing about it, what are we doing about it.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. And I'm going to echo the comments. I won't repeat them because I think we all feel quite strongly about this. Approve of the way Councillor Place is going with the Tenure Education Strategic Board. And the reason why I'm happy with it going there is because it does produce good results. And it was only yesterday I found out that attainment figures in the district from our schools are on the increase, which is an excellent piece of news. And the more children we can get into our schools, the more we can pick up those extra qualifications and the more chances they have in life. So the recommendation is to be noted, and that response to the partnerships be portfolio holder therefore be endorsed. Do I have an agreement on that? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8. Leader of the Council's items, Treasury Management Performance Report. So I guess I'm leading on this one. So this is all about our investments and our loans and borrowings and everything else. it seems, it doesn't seem, it is a good report, very clear. I'll thank the report, I think it was Mr. Barrett, for writing a very clear and transparent report for us. It lays out all the relative things. We've having a 1.6 million investment return on our money, much greater than we expected. That's due to the inflation rates. And there's various other bits and pieces, quite a long and detailed report. But before I go any further, I need a seconder.
Please to second, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. So this is good news for the council in a lot of ways. And I think, as highlighted by the monitoring officer in the report, things can go wrong with a lot of councillors, and we've seen that with Thurrock, with Slough, and I think there was only one today that came out that's now had an intervention, and that was all to do with a lack of openness, transparency, and oversight. There's some questions which I'll address again, just in case nobody caught it last time, that we had lent Thurrock money. That money has now all been returned, so there is no problems or threats there. And in terms of outstanding loans, we are virtually debt-free in the general fund. The loans that we have in the Holland, listen to me, HRA, which is exactly the same acronym, the housing revenue account, is for our long-standing borrowing for when we bought our own housing. I'm not going to go into the technical details directly at the Cabinet, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. If I can't answer them, I've got an excellent officer sitting over there. So, Carlo, I think you wanted to come in.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Very good news indeed. 1.63, well, I never achieved that in my time when I was in your seat. Please don't take the credit for that. Yeah, it's very good news that the evaluation of the investment property that we had in March 2023, it's very, it's great, because again, when we decided to go on that path in 2017, it did receive a huge amount of scrutiny, and of course the news that we got in front of us today, the return that we've had, it justify the investment that was made. 6% return on your money, even in today's world, it's really, really good news, and there's no way what else you could have got that. And we still got an asset that's worth 2.364 million, and that is really, it's returning 224,000 pounds a year in rent. And I just I've got a couple of questions on the updates. Marks and Spencers, who are actually the people that we are the leaseholders, they were trying to buy the lease out. I'm just wondering if there's any update on that, whether they're still trying their luck on that. And my other question, given the good news, the money that's returned from very good investments, can the leader just give us an indication whether investment plans on TCB with some potential joint ventures with Latimer's are still being explored, because obviously there is a very good opportunity there. What I'm saying is, if you invest prudently, you will get a good rate of return. So that's, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guglielmi. And you're right, a £250,000 increase in Marks and Spencers, what we call the Marks and Spencers building. It is good. We're still seeing a return. We've got that for another 3 years. But to answer the questions, I have, if it's okay with Mr. Barrett, and almost promoted you, if you could tell us where we are with Marks and Spencers, please.
I don't think it's necessary for a public meeting. But I don't know the answer, but we can sort of share some stuff internally. If that's okay.
Okay, sorry, that's commercially sensitive, so yeah, I can happily talk to you about that offline, but unfortunately it's commercially sensitive, not for a public meeting. As for the second question, I'm not actually sure where we are with that, so I've kind of been caught. Is that also commercially sensitive as well?
No, I think we put in to answer that again offline. I couldn't be able to provide a full response today in terms of those investment plans going forward. I personally can't.
Okay, I'm happy to talk on about that one as well. Thank you. Send it off. Is there any other questions on the Treasury report? No. Are we happy to move the Treasury report, please? Yeah. Excellent. Lovely. Thank you very much. And that's so moved. Number 9, I believe we're on now. Agenda items. It's the creation of a subsidy scheme for purposes of direct grant funding to citizens advice tendering. And I will move this one. And I'm looking for a seconder. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Baker. So this is just to continue with the funding that we've given to Citizen Advice, which moved from Citizen Advice Bureau to Citizen Advice Tendering, since we've been doing since 2013, and just to continue to do that for this year going forward. Do any questions? Councillor Guglielmi.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. As a long-term supporter of Citizens Advice, I think it's good and proper that we continue the funding. And I just wonder that the 20,000 that's been proposed as an extra pot, it's come from existing resources, which is fair enough. But can you just give them some indication about the service regular agreement with Citizens Advice Bureau? Has it been proposed to go through a scrutiny process? I don't think I've seen it on any work program, because obviously I only say this because several years ago there were some issues with that, and I think we got having the responsibility of getting best value. Just really understand if there are any plans to revisit the SLA with the CAB.
Actually, one of the recommendations in the report is that we do a review of not just the Citizens Advice, but a few of the other bodies that we currently issue money to. We felt it unfair to withdraw funding at such a late date because of no fault of their own. We had an election over that period, and decisions couldn't be made over those periods. And so we've agreed that this is the way forward for this year. But during this coming year, we will be doing a review not just on the monies to Citizen Advice, but to a whole host of other bodies. Mr. Davison.
I wasn't going to add to this, but actually Councillor Guglielmi has raised a point which is a much wider point, which I know you're very well aware of, which is about the introduction of subsidy control. So subsidy control was introduced by government, which was replacing the previous government system. It is more complex, more complicated, and actually affects wider bodies. So therefore, we do need to do that review of not just Citizens Advice, which you're quite rightly in terms of the timing of it. Councillor Guglielmi knows it, as well around the kind of time of the election and when the requirements of the funding, as well as going forward. But it's not just about, I hasten to add that, it's not just about Citizens Advice. That would have happened anyway, because the Subsidy Control Act of 2022 sets out the rules around when the council wants to provide funding to an organisation. They need to ensure the allocation of the funding is fair and doesn't have an effect on another organisation which may have been able to provide that service. So you can't just sort of basically give the funding to an organisation. An example of that would be is that sort of where we see different types of advice or different types of supply of support. Obviously, there's other organisations who'll be looking at that. So over the course of the next few months, this is not Citizen Advice. It's at all different areas in which we give funding. There's a wide range of different organisations, but the Subsidy Control Act will mean that we need to look at it. In terms of subsidy control, it also far more affects us than it used to as well. So, for example, our Levelling Up Fund, we also had to go through the process of subsidy control, where it was looking at from our point of view. So it's kind of we were the other end of the telescope in terms of the Levelling Up Fund. So it is much more complex. And has a number of different ramifications. Hence, in the report, which looks sort of quite benign almost, but there is a big piece of work around that which will go on, which will be around, as you quite rightly said, Leader, which will be around the review of that work. So just wants to put that into context of why that is.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. So I'm happy to move that. It's being seconded by Andy, and are we okay to agree then? Thank you very much. Right, moving on to agenda item number 10, developing a new corporate plan. So it feels like the leader show today. I'll be moving that. I'm looking for a seconder before we start talking about it.
Seconder, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. And So this is quite an exciting piece of work that we've been doing. This sets out our roadmap for the next 4 years, and it's the key for the future direction for us. It's direction for Cabinet, it's direction for our partners, and it's a focus on where our spend goes. It's also direction for our officers as well, who are a key part in delivering some of the projects that we do. Now, the consultation that's referenced in here, we want to be an administration which wants to hear what our residents and partners have to deliver, want us to deliver, and the fantastic opportunities and real challenges that they think may possibly be around what we're doing here. And we believe this is a roadmap to supporting and delivering those priorities and strategies. So I'm not going to go into it too much because Councillor Bush.
Thank you, Leader. We're absolutely right. This is an exciting opportunity. It's centric. It's really what we need, sort of demonstrate the vision, build a foundation and the pillars to actually engage with our community, with our residents and with our businesses to actually strive to go forward in a very positive way. And when we look at some of those core pillars that we've actually got within that community leadership driven vision, I mean, we're just focusing on those 5 items. I mean, championing a local environment, working with partners to improve the quality of life, financial sustainability that the leader just said, and openness and transparency to really engage with everybody within our community and within our officers in the council. And one of the big things, being one of the underpinning things, is the pride of our area and a service to our residents. You know, this is really exciting. It's a real core thing that I'm totally behind and want to drive it forward. It's very aspirational, but we want to make it work. And as I say, raising aspiration and creating opportunities. We've got so much that's potentially in front of us now with Freeport, that alone, and the garden communities, amongst many other aspects. This is a very, very positive sort of start to building this, and I'm looking forward to the engagement and a consultation with the public and businesses, and looking forward to sort of responses come November to where we set this journey going forward for the next 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bush. Councillor Henderson, you wanted to come in.
Thank you. Yes, when you look at the report, it is really centred on our vision, and what we mean by that is our ownership of members and our residents, because there's the issue there that we see as a cabinet, that our residents, of course, our visitors and our tourism industry is really important, but we want to emphasise the importance that our residents are here every day of the week, every week of the year, every month of the year. So they are just as important. So the emphasis is in trying to make this vision theirs as well. And you will see on page 111, by doing that, we're trying to make sure that every member of the public has access and has the right, or their voice is heard. And it will show you there in various ways that we're making sure that they can have input into this, including paper responses, which will be collected at various locations across the district. And one of the, going on from Councillor Mike Bush's comments, my big feeling with my portfolio holder is raising aspirations and creating opportunities. We'll see throughout this agenda some of the great work with our partners, partner organisation, which is going on, not only to highlight those opportunities, but to make sure that residents and young people, whatever age around the district, have got the right skills to take advantage of those opportunities as they arise. There's some great stuff. You've got Freeport East. We've got the two levelling up projects, one in Dovercourt, where we're including again community adult learning to encourage people to take up reskilling, relearning. And we've also got the one in Clacton being the Civic Quarter, which will, again, with the library and various other services in there, again, with community learning there to encourage people to take advantage of the opportunities that will be provided by all of these fantastic big projects which are following our way. But the most important thing is to make sure that our residents know about them and they engage and take advantage of those opportunities.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. You make some excellent points as usual. Councillor Guglielmi.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think just before I go into the subject matter, just like I emailed you guys last night about the agendas. I can only access the agenda on the public side of the council. And it's, you know, I'm a strong supporter of paperless, but this needs addressing. I couldn't, you know, I've got no page numbers on my agenda at all. So therefore, can we please put something in place where members can get, if we're going to do electronically, let's make sure that we can get stuff, the document, as we should do. And I look forward to that. I don't have any page numbers, so I couldn't follow what Councillor Anderson said. But on the actual corporate plan, very good principles that the administration's picked up. They do incorporate all of the various strands that the district and the challenges, and I do welcome the reflection of social value in the report. And someone passed the message on to the monitoring officer, because we've been working with her for quite a long time on that, and it's very pleasing to see that social value has now been reflected. I know it's work in progress, and I look forward to engaging the process of when it's fully woven into the culture of the administration. It's obviously early days to make comments, but I'll put them in anyway. Asset management, procurement, also there was quite a lot of work being done in that, and I'd like to see that very much in a prominent way, because we don't have a huge amount of asset, and what we have, we've got to really make the most of it. So that would be quite good to see. Councillor Anderson talked about the LUF funding, which again, that will probably translate in more detailed things once as the plan progresses. So it's fine. The LGA peer review that we had in 2018, as a result of that, we introduced a new monitoring metric system. And I know there's a section in the report that talked about that same system, probably similar system will be used. Will it be the same way that you report with the highlighted priorities? Again, the report talks about that. But will there be any changes, you know, because obviously that's a tried and tested, and it's quite easy to understand, give you a very good snapshot on that. It talks about having £25,000 to support the consultation from the accrued vacancies to date. Just like to understand how big is that pot of the vacancies. If 25,000 doesn't seem to be a great deal of money, but it probably need a little bit more than that. And the one thing that it really kind of hits you is the timetable a bit ambitious. That's my only concern, that between now and 1st of January, there's only less than 5 months to go. And for a document, and I know you can have reviews and refresh during the way, just wonder if give it a bit more time to get a better product, and would be quite good. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Carlo. Councillor Davidson. Councillor. He has definitely been promoted, Mr. Davidson.
We can debate whether that whether or not promotion anyway. First of all, my apologies for members if we had problems in that one. Just so you know, what we'll do in future is put a copy of the agenda into your appointment in your calendar. That means that if there's updates, the most up to date will be in there. So from day of when it should be published, it will be in your calendar. And then if there's any updates or any additional reports that go in, they'll go in your calendar. So you'll have everything up to date. So apologies for that, but that's not. I'll pick up the staffing point if I may, because obviously head of paid service. As you know, in every year we always have an amount of savings in terms of the staffing figure, simply because is that at no time do you always have a complete complement of staff. You also have certain savings from other staffing budgets where they perhaps has gone on to reduce time, but actually they're still sort of in there. I can't think of any of the individuals at the moment in terms of in there. So therefore, that is not going to have an impact. It's not taken out of capacity. It is being covered as a result of those fluctuations which we always have. So I just wanted to pick up the agendas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. And as for the other points, yeah, you make a couple of points that I could certainly agree with. I think it's still a high-level document. We are doing a consultation, as the report says, and one of the parts of that consultation, which isn't covered in the report, but you should hopefully be aware of, is that we have an all-members briefing next week around this very document. And I think all those comments you just brought up there, that's probably the best place to put them. We can capture the whole councillors' comments in one place. That'd be great. But you make some interesting comments, so thanks for that.
One point I wanted to make, it's not been brought up anywhere yet, but obviously AI will play a part into how we go forward. And I just wonder if some consideration has been given to that, because obviously that would be one of the ways that we can tackle that. Sorry, go on. The man is spider there. I should put it on my shoulder. That's probably leverage because it's too tight. Yeah, it's obviously one of the areas that the council will have to embark itself on. The funding up that we've got, it's going to grow and grow and grow, and I just wondered whether that should also be featured in the corporate plan.
Absolutely, AI is now our future, or at least part of it. We saw a lot of that at the LGA, as you attended, and so it is working already itself into other councils, and it is something that's possibly coming to us in the future. It's one of those comments I would suggest that you bring to the all members briefing, and as part of all of the consultation, we'll just have to have a look and see where things fit, and is it the right time to bring AI into, or is it some time in the future? Skylar. Okay, so that's been proposed, seconded. Can I get approval, please? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 11. So this is the overview of the financial outturn for 22-23 and proposed allocation of the general fund variance for the year. So I'm the one that's going to move this. I'm looking for a seconder, please. Thank you very much, Councillor Cox. Okay, right. Where do I start? Well, in terms of the variances, there are a number of adverse issues, but these have been offset by more favourable ones. I think we're doing extremely well with our outturn. There's been no major surprises, as most of that's been picked up during the year as part of our existing budget monitoring processes and arrangements. In terms of financial forecast, it is proposed to retain the full outturn variance for the year of just over £3 million within the revenue commitment reserve, as has been practiced in the past. And the report we have in front of us today sets out a number of emerging issues as we look ahead for 23-24 and beyond. It will be important for us to have a decent amount of financial flexibility through the outturn variance, and the outturn variance will give us that. I'll be working shortly with officer and portfolio holders to review the carry forwards 22-23, the outcome of which will be reported to Cabinet later in the year. Carry forwards are just over £25 million, and it's important for us to put in place the necessary arrangements to get things over the line. The report also includes a few bullet points about some additional rights to buy flexibilities, along with council tax premiums on second homes, and we will be revisiting both of these subjects over the course of the year. And that's pretty much as much as I'm going to say on that, unless anybody else wants to come in. Okay. Councillor Cox.
Thanks, Leader, and I'm happy to second this report, and I sort of obviously endorse the comments made by the Leader. I'm also glad that there have been no major surprises in this report, and it's good that we've got the financial flexibility that we have got as we work through this financial year and forward as we set our budgets for the next year as well. I look forward to working with my Cabinet colleagues and officers as we work through this next period to look at, the long-term financial position of the council. And I think it's useful that we can secure that long-term financial stability through the life of this administration and beyond. And I think that's the important thing, is about stability. And I think this report is set out when it gives us the opportunities to do a lot of those things that we need to do over the coming year and into the future to maintain that flexibility and also give us some options in terms of what we do in as we produce our budgets over the coming years. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Guglielmi.
Just say well done for carrying on the good work with two Scrooges at the helm there. You've got no chance of doing any damage. But no, that's a very, very good place to be, especially with the challenges that are coming in front of us. And with the 1.63 million from investment and your new home bonus, you got a little bit of money to play about with. So well done.
You, Carlo, and yes, you're right. We have a little bit of money, but we do have some serious challenges ahead of us as well. So it's not as if we can just run away with it. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, so recommendation on page 118 has been moved and seconded. Can I get approval, please? Thank you very much. This right, moving on to agenda item number 12. And this is the Port of Housing and Planning portfolio holder, the Elmstead Neighbourhood Plan. I believe this one's over to you, Andy. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. You can have a rest while I go through this. So Elmstead Parish Council has submitted the final version of its neighbourhood plan and also a neighbourhood development order, which are rarely used, I'm reliably told, and few and far between. So as you can see, the recommendation is that Cabinet notes the contents of the documentation at Appendix 1, the Elmstead Neighbourhood Development Plan, Appendix 2, Consultation Statement, Appendix 3, Basic Condition Statement, and Appendix 4, the Neighbourhood Development Order, and B, authorises the Director of Planning to carry out a 6-week public consultation of the plan, the NDO, and other related documents in accordance with the various regulations. It's a very comprehensive document as well, and I think that not only our officers who have helped Elmstead Parish Council, but I think Elmstead Parish Council should be congratulated on submitting such a very comprehensive document as to what they have done and what they wish to see. So I commend the report and I commend the recommendation as well. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, do you have a second? Councillor Bush.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I absolutely sort of endorse and support these recommendations and sort of comments that Councillor Baker made. It's very important that they've worked very closely with our own officers to ensure that they align themselves with our corporate plan. And obviously those 5 key priorities in delivering high quality services is 1, the community leadership through the partnerships is 2, and the sustainability committee for the future 3, finance and governance and growing inclusive economy. All those right things are form part of the plan. And this is important that throughout this consultation, that obviously we will continue to sort of support and work with them to make certain it does line and fully fulfil the plan for tendering. And that's really the comment just made.
Thank you, Councillor Bush. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Cabinet, for proposing this. And Elmstead Market Parish Council have done a lot of work, and there's been a lot of time and effort. And Elmstead Market Parish Council are very grateful to officers for assisting the workload. Down the road in Alresford, we had a neighbourhood plan, and that took us about 4 odd years. And Elmstead Market have done this in record time. It's a very good, well-researched, thorough document that incorporates the residents and local businesses and groups in Elmstead Market, and it's something to be proud of Elmstead Market, what they've done. And I know that other parishes like Ardley and Alresford have done their neighbourhood plans, and it's really something worth recording. A lot of work's gone into this. And I'm very, very grateful that residents have taken the time to put their ideas. They've done a lot of consultation with residents in Elmstead, what they want, what things and what services that are needed for the village. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. And it should be noted that, once this has been formally adopted after the consultation periods, that it's just as strong as our local plan. Yeah, and that is one of the things that parishes can do to help their own growth and where it is. If you wouldn't mind conveying the Cabinet's thanks to Elmstead Parish for a great piece of work, and that we are supportive. So if there's nothing else to say, the agenda item, sorry, Councillor Guglielmi.
I don't speak, but it really is. I think it's the third village that is now come up with a neighbourhood plan, and it is a huge amount of work for such a small resource group of people. Elmstead, like our area, has been bombarded with development unwanted, and it's come forward when there was a change of national planning policies, so they've been bombarded with development which really would not be there otherwise. They've also got the garden communities, and I think I'd like to put on record that we've done all we can on the Tendring-Colchester border to make sure that there is no coalescence of villages, and that the image of the village will be preserved away from the garden community. The buffer zone that we're proposing, it's very, very substantial to one side, and to the other there will be the commercial area, which will again serve by default as a buffer to the village. So therefore, you can only praise what they've done, but I'd like to put on record that they've done a smashing job in reasonably short amount of time that they've had in which to craft this. So well done, Elmstead.
Thank you, Councillor Guglielmi, and I echo your thoughts on that. We are a rural district, despite what some people might say, and with the amount of parish councils that we have, that independence is definitely something we want to keep for all of our villages. So it's been moved and it's been seconded. Recommendations on page 128. Are we happy to approve? Thank you all. The agenda item number 13 is the report of the Partnerships Portfolio Holder updating us on the Tendring Education Strategic Board. Gina.
Thank you. As you say, this report updates us on the work of the TESB, or the Tendring Education Strategic Board. It was this. Oh, sorry. I have to eat this, don't I, so that people can hear me. Right. The board was established in 2020 and aims to work in partnership to raise the aspirations, attainment and skills levels of children and young people across the district. The board sits within the North East Essex Health and Wellbeing Alliance to support their work as a system to ensure that, I quote, children get the best start in life, as in the Start Well domain, as well as contributing positively to tackling the wider detriments of health. Now into its third year, working in partnership with Essex Education Team and local partners, the work of the board is currently focused on 5 priorities across Tendring schools. These are speech, language and communication, reading, pupil attendance, mental health and skills. The work is progressed via established task and finish groups, and the progress on each priority is provided within the report. It is very positive to see a number of developments in the work that have brought additional funding for schools, and also opportunities to build relationships outside of the Tendring area in both Suffolk and Norfolk, as well as peer support and continued professional development opportunities for school staff. There has been an active focus to ensure key links are made for the benefit of the work being undertaken and to work collaboratively. For example, presenting at a recent Tendring Regeneration Board, also the North East Essex Children's Partnership Board and the Alliance. The board has also established a regional group that meets quarterly. This group has representation from all the academy schools across Tendring, senior Essex education leads and TDC to enable schools to share good practice, influence and raise issues and challenges with the Department of Education. Moving to the recommendation, it is recommended that Cabinet endorses the work of the Tendring Education Strategic Board and associated priorities and projects as listed within the report, which will be which will continue to be supported in the 2023-24 academic year, not as printed the 22-23, in alignment with corporate priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. Have you got a seconder?
I'm pleased to second that, Leader, and say a few words on this, because again, it cuts across also my portfolio holder. And I think Councillor Guglielmi made a really good point earlier when he says that education is obviously not our statutory responsibility, but I think this is what goes back to our vision again, because yes, we are a deliverer of services, but we're also an influencer, a facilitator, and on occasion leaders within our community. And I think this is a particular point to make regarding the work that's going on here. And it's music to my ears where it says in here that support young people intending to reach their potential through good career advice. I've been banging on about careers advice and making sure it's in our schools. And it goes on again to say ensure good career guidance is available with effective pathways to facilitate tendering jobs for the future. But it also goes on about people reskilling and taking advantage of opportunities. But the other point of this on page 403, which I think is really good, is it says membership of the group has been extended to wider partners who support vulnerable children, young people and families. Example, Family Solutions. We know the fantastic work that Family Solutions are doing throughout this district, and to have them on board now because they've got that knowledge and experience with which is what happened on the ground to be able to support and provide information and the right kind of, as I say, support to those people who need that we're looking at through this education system. So I'm really pleased to second this report. I think it's a really good way forward for the council to be involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Guglielmi.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I fully welcome this report. Likewise, I'd like to pay tribute to the previous cabinet member who put a massive amount of work into this. And just like for the benefit of members who were not around in those days, again, it goes to the fact whose responsibility is it. You know, influencing role was created some 8-9 years ago, because many other authorities do not have an influencing cabinet member for partnerships. So, you know, we were breaking ground here. And I think that creation of the Education Improvement Board was the very first direct result of the influencing role that we created. It was because, really, to be blunt, a lot of schools were not performing. A lot of schools were not achieving what they should have been achieving. A lot of schools were really quite suspicious to engage with us at the time, because it was looked upon as interference. And I know Anastasia will remember the many attempts that we had in getting school to come forward. But then when it was realized that we're not there to pry into their business and to tell them what to do, but only merely to set up a system where we could do mutual support, they suddenly start engaging, and it's great. There was a conference in this very room here about a year ago, and it was so pleasing to see about 30 schools were in presence, you know, which is unprecedented. And there were really what was on offer that day. Several people weren't aware of what the offer was from partners. So I really like to pay tribute. And I just wonder if the portfolio holder would consider doing a bi-monthly maybe bulletin to circulate to all the members, because it's something that happens. It gets reported here and it doesn't go anywhere, you know. And unless you come here and listen to it and read the report, if you can access it, please, you know, people do not realize. So maybe just a succinct summary would be quite good to circulate to everyone of what the achievement of the board does. It's great to see more partners on the, you know, joining up, because it will be very much part of the corporate plan. New corporate plan aims to look, you know, to address communities. So I just wonder if that's something that could be put in place. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Guglielmi. And I was at Chief Exec's meeting yesterday with Ian for the North Essex leaders and Chief Execs, and it's amazing, you know, just how jealous they are of us a little bit on this, because they don't even know how to work with their partners. You know, the idea it's almost foreign. They're coming to us, and Ian's been asked to speak in several other areas on how we've managed to do what we do here. And we are leading the way on this. So it's definitely something that we are getting right. Gina, I can see you want to come in, then Councillor Henderson.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, Carla, Councillor Guglielmi. It's my intention to sing it from the rooftops, the work that's being done, and to get as many people involved as possible. So bi-monthly, certainly, I'll take you up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, and on the back of this, what I didn't mention in the report, it says there about mapping of what offers are currently in place and available to identify gaps of what should be supported via future skills. We had a really constructive session, workshop in this room with various partner organisations, providers, and also some of the businesses, talking about just that, where the gaps are, what the issues are, work ready situations, you know, having the right skills. So again, it shows our influence and leadership of a council, actually bringing people together, and people went away feeling pretty good after that, and they felt it was a really constructive session, and actually one or two were asking if we could put it on again, because they thought that coming together and networking at the same time, it was really useful. And just to plug before I finish is, don't forget, there's the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is now open call, and there is an element within that 1.1 million, which is available over 3 years, which actually says about people and skills. It obviously covers town centres, visitor economy, creative and culture, but there's a specific point that people can bid for those people and skills side of things. So we want to keep encouraging this. We want to be ready for all these opportunities that are coming our way within the district. Oh, and that closes, the date closes on the 20th of August, the deadline. So people, you know, have a look at the website, make sure you get your bids in.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Mr. Davidson, got it right this time.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, for members, that was on your bulletin. So if you want the link, it was on your bulletin a couple of nights ago. There. I would just want to pay tribute to all councillors, actually, because you said about being able to go and speak and talk to others, and that's given because it's given the licence by the support of all councillors, whatever the political hue, whatever the position. And Councillor Guglielmi made reference to Councillor McWilliams, and actually I would give absolute credit in terms of the work she did around the partnerships as well, and how that was absolutely supported around and various different missions across council, and it was had so much support in council and across with meetings across our councillors. And I think that's a real credit to our councillors, and that's often was what's the difference between us and so many others is that about once we get past the kind of the elections and the rosettes and things, is about actually getting on and supporting tendering. And I would just like to say thank you to all our councillors for that, because it is what helps us to work with our partners, work with voluntary sector organisations, and work with other organisations such as Essex County Council and government, because we get that support across parties. So I just want to recognise part of that success of being able to work with partners is because of all of you giving that support. So thank you from me.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Okay, so recommendations on page 403, which endorses the work of the TESB. Gina's moved it, Ivan seconded it. Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 14 is a report of the Deputy Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer. Unfortunately, she's unable to be with us today, so I'm going to guess this one is Mr. Davidson's.
Thank you very much indeed, Leader. Just to say that in terms of this being moved and seconded by members, that it just gives you a an update in terms of the position. So external audits, which has been widely across in terms of both the national press and the trade press about the issues which they've had in terms of the audits. As we know from our audit committee, we're still awaiting from the 2021 audits. This is about therefore the dates coming forward more recently in terms of for the accounts for 31st of July. Sorry, the aim is for 31st of June. We've moved it to 31st of July. A number of other authorities have, and I know that nationally there are now proposals around how they're going to deal with the significant backlog that the auditors have in addressing the issue of accounts. The knock-on effect, if you don't close accounts, is you don't have an opening figure which is agreed to go for the next year. So this has been an ongoing issue for us, as all members know, and as the audit committee has talked about at some length, and including with the auditors, and perhaps stretches back as far as sort of 2010, when as we saw the sort of decline of some of the funding and the focus on that area. So I would just sort of say is that indeed I know that Essex County Council recently published a similar report as well in relation to theirs. So I would just say is that this is to highlight if we don't do something which is a statutory requirement, then we are required to report it to members, and it is for noting for you. And this is what this does. I just wanted to give a little bit of a background about our frustrations, frankly, around the situation with audit, which I know the audit committee have spoken in depth about, and with the auditors.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davidson. So I'm going to move that. I need a seconder.
I'll second that, Leader.
Thank you very much. Just my own 2 pence worth. As scrutiny chairman, we have criticised the lack of an external report, not the council itself, but the external auditors. And I know the former councillor, Alan Coley, was also very adamant about getting these external audits in. It's not a TDC issue, it's a countrywide. I think you're going to see a lot of councils doing exactly what we're doing today. And unless the government sorts it out, I can't see a solution to the problem that we currently face. Councillor Guglielmi.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is an outrageous situation, really is. It's been going on, completely unacceptable. This will probably give the impression that the council culpable of something really is absolutely not culpable of. This is a situation that needs government input, big time. This was discussed at a full council meeting at Essex a couple of weeks ago, where the chairman of the audit committee gave a very comprehensive report on what the situation is, and really, because it's, as Chief Executive said, we cannot move on until the previous 2 years ago's accounts are being made published and made available. And I firmly believe, there is a statement there from the Section 151 officer, which I think it should be printed on the web, on our homepage, really, because it's not just us, as you say, it's everywhere around, and I would firmly recommend that we withhold payment to BDO, and we also include all other authorities that are part of this through your Chief Exec and the Leaders Forum. Because we got to send a message out to someone that this is not acceptable. We've all been it's not our fault, nobody's fault. It is the fault of the outfit that replaced the audit commission, dare I say, which used to work quite well, but they saw fit that to be replaced. And we don't have any say. And one of the audit training session that we had, it was discussed the Essex Police chose not to take the auditors dictated to them, but to go off with their own things. And I understand that's worked to be better, but we are where we are. But I think we should really put that statement on that website, because it is very important to clarify, the position is. And I understand that also one at the recent audit committee meeting, I couldn't go because I had a previous engagement, but one of the members there suggested the same, just to get that statement printed on the website, and really to highlight the ineptitude of BDO in having failed systematically to do what was suspected of them. So there's a couple of things there. Just wondered if the leader has got any comments on that, to withhold payments and to print that statement on our website. Thank you.
Before I come back to that, Mr. Davidson.
Just to absolutely didn't have anything Councillor Guglielmo said. I just wanted to add to that, though, is that the problem at the moment is wider than just the audit company for us. Actually, it's a national problem, and that really does need to be got to grips of, because it is affecting all local authorities with the different suppliers. So it's a huge issue. And as part of your recommendations here, I'll be writing to the Chief Executive of the external audit to express our regret. But also we'll be also sending that to the and I can't remember, sorry, the name, and I used to work with him, so that's really embarrassing. And Neil, and I can't think of his surname, Neil Harris, who is now responsible for the audit and the provision of audit, copying him into that, because that's a national position he has, because it is affecting us all, and as you quite rightly say, it's ludicrous. I think that for our members, we have given surety. You can see that in the report, including obviously in terms of our debt levels, and so you are very well aware, and we're very transparent, so that you're very well aware that we position that for this council, but it is still frustrating to have not to be able to publish on the due dates because of the reasons stated in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Totally agree that it's an outrageous situation that we're in. I've been, as you well know, for several years been saying, audits, why haven't got them? I think part of me is like, we don't know what we don't know. Now I have total confidence in our council there, and I really have got no problems with the way our officers conduct themselves. And I think if we had those audits processed with a magic wand tomorrow, we would find there were very few problems that we weren't aware of. My problem is, my concern is that how's that applying to other councillors who perhaps haven't got the excellent officers that we've got? But that's for us to sit there and say. As to the statement, Carla, we've already got an older version on it. What I can say is we'll get that refreshed. So, okay, thank you. So that needs to be moved. I'm happy. I've already moved it. Ivan's already seconded it. We got approval for that. Agreed. Lovely. Thank you very much. And I believe that was the last agenda item. So all we got left to do is to wish Mr. Davison a lovely holiday. Thanks. Yeah, I'll draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much. Thank you.